Today's episode is brought to you by Restaurant.com. With Restaurant.com, you can save at thousands of restaurants across the country with just a few clicks. Their dining deals range from $5 to $100, never expire, and cost you a fraction of the face value. Dinner has never been easier with Restaurant.com. Use for dine-in, takeout, or delivery. Restaurant.com is offering our listeners 50% off their next purchase by going to www.restaurant.com/podcast. That's www.restaurant.com/podcast for 50% off your next purchase. Restaurant.com, the best deal every meal. Now, Brett, on to episode 79. A little delayed. We did not have our midweek episode like we typically do, but we had a jam-packed weekend of football that we had some picks out for. We have a great Monday night football game coming. MLB baseball playoffs are right around the corner. The NBA championship, that's shaping up as we have the end of the Eastern Conference Final Game 6 happening while we're recording. And we also have Stanley Cup elimination games happening. So we got some games with some big potential going on in this rundown.
Yeah, I mean, tons of stuff coming up this week. You mentioned the NHL Stanley Cup Finals. The NBA Finals are going to start this week, Higgins. So lots to be excited for. Baseball postseason, more football, and NBA Finals, probably the best. Masters coming up.
And actually, Brett, right as we started recording this, the Miami Heat officially won Game 6, so it's going to be the Heat versus the Lakers in the NBA Championship 7-game series. Can't wait to watch that. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. Before we get to our baseball, though, that's what we're going to start off with. We're going to talk about some Beginners Boulevard. Buying points. Now, this may sound familiar to you when we've talked about alternate lines. Bettors can adjust a spread up or down by buying or selling points to create a more favorable line. The odds adjust with these changes to the spread. So let's say you had the Green Bay Packers in Sunday night at +3, but instead you wanted to take it closer to like +1. By lowering that, the odds are going to show reflecting those odds changes as well.
Yeah, a lot of times I'll do this as an underdog and I'll like sell points back. So it'll actually be the reverse of this. And like, I'll be like, actually, this team's +7. Well, I actually think this is probably a field goal game. I'll take them at +4 and, get this thing down a little bit, get this money in my advantage. But yeah, it's definitely a good way to bet, Higgins.
Yeah, you mentioned a great point that of thinking it's a field goal game. Buying and selling points in football can be very popular as you try to get it around a football number of whether you think it's going to be a touchdown game, a field goal game, or you think it's going to be a multi-score game, so you take it above that 8 points. And obviously, if you increase those odds and you are selling more points, so you have a -8 instead of a -6.5, you're going to probably get a little bit of positive odds instead of your typical -110.
Yeah, definitely. No, all good things to keep our eye on throughout the football season.
Let's take a look at this MLB, though, because we have the beginning of an expanded playoff format in an already extremely unique baseball season that was only 60 games. It was a sprint to the finish line. Some of these playoff spots were not decided until Saturday or Sunday, the last 2 days of the regular season. And if you look at these AL pennant odds, I'm not sure where the value is. I like the Yankees at +300 as the favorites, though. I think that the congestion there in the top 4, top 5 kind of gives value to the front runner.
Yeah, I think it's funny that the Rays won the Yankees division and they're +350.
Yes.
But kind of to be expected, the Yankees being one of the bigger teams in America, you're always going to pay that what I like to call the Dallas Cowboys tax. You know
The
what I mean?
exposure.
Yeah, exactly. So people want to bet the Yankees. People want to bet the Lakers. You'll probably get good prices in the finals too on Miami.
You know who you don't want to bet right now collectively in America is the Houston Astros, who have caught a lot of flack from their cheating scandal that came out. They're sitting at +1,200 odds in the AL pennant, and Brett, I'd say if you're looking for value at the bottom of some of these pennant spots, that might be a good spot considering the Astros bats are still as alive as ever. I know Justin Verlander has some elbow issues, but their pitching still isn't horrible. Houston plus 1200 isn't bad. And then if you look at the NL, I think the Marlins at plus 1800 compared to the plus 20,000 or whatever they were at the start of the season, it's a fair reflection, but also they've been surprising the entire league the entire time. So why not throw a few bones there potentially?
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how managers use their pitching staffs this postseason, because if we're seeing what we've seen in previous postseasons where starters go deep, the Cincinnati Reds at plus 1300, they have three of the best starters that you could possibly have in a 3-game series. So that would be intriguing for me to look at. Another team, Cleveland, who had your guy, not your guy, actually Trevor Bauer's your guy, but they had the other guy, Shane Bieber,
They had the other
uh,
guy.
the other Cy Young, Shane Bieber, who was incredible all season. They're plus 850. If it's a best of 5 and he goes twice in a series, well, that's 2 wins right there. So now you only need to win one other start, and they have very capable arms in Cleveland. So that's interesting to keep our eye on. I probably won't touch these right now, but if I see these starters going late, if I think that's a trend, I will definitely hop on Cincinnati and Cleveland, the Ohio teams.
I'm not touching anyone right now either. I would say if I was leaning closest to betting on anybody, it would be on the Padres at plus 500 actually, just because as the second favorite in the NL, that's some pretty good odds at plus 500, I think, compared to the Dodgers plus 140. The problem I have with the Padres is the route that they're going to have to take to get to the World Series. So they are starting off against the Cincinnati Reds, which is going to be a tough task potentially with the pitching that the Reds have. And then if they were to win as the 4 seed playing the 5 seed, they'd have to take on potentially the Dodgers, who are the 1 seed. So it's a very tough road in those first two, and then who knows who they'd have to play in that NL pennant race. But plus 500, I like the Padres. I think they're a little young. That's what's holding me off on it right now. But I think that is some decent value.
All right, you like the Padres. The young team I kind of like would be the White Sox then.
Okay.
I think they're very similar to what people like about the Yankees, but they're actually healthy. So the fact that you get plus 650 on young outfielders who mash, that sounds pretty good to me, but I'm a little nervous about the ballparks being factors here, playing at the neutral sites. There's actually going to be potentially fans at the Texas site, so uh, I don't know if I'm going to touch any of these games opening day, maybe even on Wednesday either. I might see what's happening and then play from there.
I actually misspoke. I said that the Padres play the Reds. They're playing a team that wears red, but they're playing the Cardinals. So I got that wrong. I just needed to make the
A
clarification.
different word for red, cardinal.
Yes, it typically precedes the word red in the color index.
Yeah, there
But
you go.
so we don't have any lines out for the MLB right now. The first games are in the AL wild card are going to be on Tuesday. The NL wild card starts on Wednesday with game 2 of most of those AL series taking place then. So maybe we'll have some picks out on Monday involving those Tuesday games, but we wanted to get at least give you a preview of where we're sitting with these teams, where they're who they're facing off against in the wild card series, and who our early favorites are in terms of a pennant race potentially. But Brett, we have some actual championship discussions to have, so let's just jump to that. Let's talk about the Stanley Cup. Now, the Dallas Stars, they were able to force a game 6, and in typical fashion, it went to double overtime, as we have seen these playoff series without fans be very even-handed in this way. I mean, it started off with that 5 overtime game basically in the first round, and now we've had two back-to-back games in the NHL Stanley Cup Series at least go to overtime, if not double overtime. So I am liking this game. I'm liking this trend of the going to overtime the past 2 games. I think it's going to force a game 7. So give me Dallas plus 140. I might just be hoping too much for a game 7 with this pick. I don't have a lot of analytics to give besides that, but I really like the plus 140. I do have some analytics for my other pick that you and I are on opposite sides of, though.
Oh, okay. I want to hear your analytics. Maybe I need to jump ship here. Hold on.
Okay, so Brett, where we are differentiating right now is on this over under I see in the rundown. You initially like the under. I like the over 5.5 at plus 118. First of all, I think getting the positive money there is great. But if you look at 2 of the past 3 games that these two teams have played, that over would have hit, especially in the second to last game that went to single overtime. That was a 5-4 game. Last game was a 3-2 game, so pretty close to hitting that over under. I think that these sticks have just come more alive a little bit. Also, with it being an elimination game, let's say Tampa gets up 3-1 early, or it gets up 3-1 in the third. You could see Dallas pull their goalie early and then pull their goalie again, even if Tampa scores and makes it 4-1. So I think since it's an elimination game, since it's go big or go home, you're going to pull your goalie early if you're down in a crunch. So who knows? Take the over in this scenario, I think.
I think that's all fair. I just think it's gonna be low scoring. I think in these games you dig your heels in, you defend, you uh sometimes you push a little bit too much maybe and you miss some opportunities because the pass was a little off or you were too juiced up and missed the net, right? So I don't know, it's a big game, biggest game of the year, obviously, game 6 of the Stanley Cup Finals. I just think both teams are going to come out swinging. It's going to be physical. It's going to be hard fought. People are going to be fighting for every puck. Maybe your legs get tired a little earlier. I just could see this being a 3-2 game, and that is under 5.5, Higgins.
Now, Brett, has the fact that it's two teams from far in the south that doesn't get snow, has that affected your ability to be entertained by this Stanley Cup? Because I'll be honest, it has affected mine. I still watch it, I still enjoy it, but I don't really find myself caring unless I've made a bet before the game on what side I'm on. I mean, Dallas versus Tampa, I really could care less about in terms of who actually wins unless I'm picking a side in terms of a sports bet beforehand.
I'm rooting for Dallas. I worked with the Mavs for a year, so they share the arena with the Mavs, and I went to a game. They beat up on my Rangers, but it was fun. I got to go watch Lundqvist play, and it was good to see the Rangers while I was living in Texas. A little piece of home, but I root for the Stars in this series because, similarly to you, it doesn't have much rooting interest for me, but obviously the Stanley Cup playoffs as a whole are some of the most fun in sports, and I always enjoy watching close competitive hockey games.
Now, let's move on to the championship series that I'm sure you are more excited to talk about, having worked in the NBA. The NBA championship series, Miami versus the Lakers. Now, there's already been some interesting parallels that I've seen being drawn by TikTok sports fans of when Kobe won his fourth ring in 2009. They went through Houston, they went through Denver, and then they won their championship in Orlando. This year, LeBron's chasing his fourth ring with the Lakers. They went through Houston, they went through Denver, and now they're playing in Orlando. Is this destiny? I mean, the story matches up almost too well.
That's pretty funny. Dwight Howard, I guess, was on that Orlando team
Yep.
and now he's on the Lakers. That would be kind of funny.
Also, LeBron's playing against Miami, who helped him finally get over the hump and get his first championship. I mean, a lot of these stars seem to be aligning in this. I think it'll be interesting.
I definitely think the most disappointed people in this whole thing are like the people that work for ABC who are missing out on traveling from South Beach to LA to
It's a pretty
South
nice travel
Beach to
schedule. Yeah.
LA. Yeah, that that is a tough loss for the ABC people who work the finals, and not that like San Francisco or Oakland so bad, but LA and Miami, that's pretty good.
And Denver, it could be basically snowing any day at this point. So kind of fortunate that it wouldn't have been that one. But stuck in Orlando, I think you're safe from the snow. I'm pretty confident in calling that.
Yeah,
But it's
but
but it's 2020, so who knows?
it is 2020, so who knows? I do like the Lakers in this series, Higgins. I think they're probably gonna walk away with this one. Probably in about 5 games. I really, I think Jimmy Butler is going to cause a problem, but I don't think Miami roster top to bottom is as good as the Lakers.
Do you? So if the Lakers win, I think it's two obvious choices of who the Finals MVP would have to be: LeBron or AD. Do you think there's a good chance that AD can swipe that from LeBron, or if the Lakers win it, do you think it's going to LeBron hands down?
Well, I'm hoping Deion Waiters wins it. That would be my hope, right?
Absolutely. I think he might be a little too much on the edibles, though, to remember he's playing in a championship series.
I bet we get great odds. Might be worth $1. But no, yeah, I think it would probably be LeBron. Although you never know. AD's a free agent coming this year. LeBron may give this whole speech like, "Oh, it was AD. AD did everything," and like,
Yeah.
try and woo him a little bit.
Well, and you never know. Jimmy Butler might choose to try to take on LeBron on defense, and who knows the success he could have with that. But Jimmy can't take on AD, I don't think. So
Well,
that's a
you
different
never
discussion.
know. You never say never, Higgins.
He is a bulldog. That is true. Now, money line magic, though, Brett. Let's get into this. Let's talk about the football that we have because it's been a jam-packed weekend of football. We had SEC back on Saturday. We could be talking about one of those games. We're not. There's a number of games in the NFL we could be talking about. We could be talking about the Falcons' second collapse in as many weeks with the Bears coming back. It wasn't Trubisky, though. It was Nick Foles. The Lions win on a field goal as game expired. They were the underdogs by 5.5 points. That's a big win for them. The Bengals and the Eagles end in a tie. We could be talking about any of those games, but we're not. We're talking about the Bills' comeback with Josh Allen throwing 4 touchdowns against the Los Angeles Rams.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about this Bills Rams game. It was a crazy ending, but really quick before we get into this, Higgins, what the heck happened at the end of that Eagles game where you go off sides and take yourself out of field goal range? Oh man, that is a terrible way to lose. That's not money line magic. That is just sadness.
I, you might even argue on that might be on Monday's Bad Beats with Scott Van Pelt.
That is a brutal. I mean, it's gonna be a long field goal, 59 yards, and you just false start on the offense, 5 yard penalty. It's over.
Ouch. Ouch. So let's get into this Bills game though, because Josh Allen, like I said, another phenomenal game, back-to-back 4 touchdown games by this guy. But Jared Goff kept responding. The Rams, great game. Henderson, the running back, fantastic, over 100 yards rushing for him. Jared Goff throws a touchdown to take the lead, but he left 4 minutes and 30 seconds left on the clock. That's a lot of time in the NFL. Josh Allen goes surgical, 11 plays, 75 yards, 4 minutes and 15 seconds drive. He took all of it away, but 15 seconds for Jared Goff to work with. And if it wasn't for a pass interference call, though, Josh Allen arguably would not have had the opportunity he did to throw that touchdown in the end zone.
Yeah, Bills fans will argue like, "Oh, well, that face mask call earlier in the drive against us was BS," and I don't really necessarily agree with that, but they'll, point to that and be like, it was a makeup call for that. And I don't know. It was just a tough pass interference call. I just don't really see it in that spot. But the Bills won, and that's good for people living in my household, Higgins.
I think it's a little bit of payback from week one when Jalen Ramsey sold that pass interference that took Dallas out of field goal range, and because that catch would have potentially put them in field goal, if not touchdown potential on that final drive for Dallas in week one. Now, pass interference falls on the defensive side against Williams, gives Josh Allen another chance, and he throws his fourth touchdown. Amazing, amazing job. And he really has me thinking about whether or not I need to start him or trade him in fantasy football because I have Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. Josh Allen's ridden my bench the past 3 weeks because I'm too scared to bench Pat Mahomes, who plays on Monday night. And we're going to get to that game in a little bit. But it's a hard question to answer with how hot his hand is right now.
Yeah, I think personally, because you have Pat Mahomes, this would only be my advice if you have Russell Wilson, Pat Mahomes, and Lamar Jackson, right? So, like those three, I would trade Josh Allen because you're never going to get value this high for him. And you could probably bring back an RB2 or something like that that will be really valuable to your roster versus a guy just taking up a bench spot for you and you're going, oh my God, he's killing it. I really hope Patrick Mahomes has a good game on Monday night.
Just take the temptation away. That's a very fair point. Now, talking about that Monday night game, Brett, let's get into it because Chiefs Ravens. It's a matchup that everyone wants to see. Patrick Mahomes versus Lamar Jackson, and I think that this is going to be very similar of the new age version of the Sunday night game where you have two great quarterbacks of Aaron Rodgers versus Drew Brees. Now you get two of the youngsters of Pat Mahomes versus Lamar Jackson. And I think no over is really safe. 54, I'm staying off of it right now, but I would not be surprised to see this just be an absolute offensive slaughter fest on both sides of just running up the score, and whoever has the ball last wins.
Yeah, I could definitely see this over 54 hitting. And to be honest with you, I'll probably find myself on it as the clock ticks tomorrow. But right now, I'm really only on the Kansas City Chiefs plus 3.5. And that's simply because I don't think this game is going to be decided by more than a field goal, Higgins. I think these are the two best teams in the AFC right now. And the game's in Baltimore. So I think the 3 is on the right side. But I think that extra .5 for the hook is too many points, Higgins. And it's going to be Kansas City by less than 3.5.
And I am going to be on Kansas City as well, but I'm taking them on the money line, Brett. I'm going to be a little bit more bullheaded than you are, a little bit more bullish on this. Plus 150. I think Kansas City, who escaped with a win last week against the Chargers, are going to come in a little sharpened, a little bit more intact. Plus, they're not going to have that defensive adjustment of a brand new quarterback without film starting 15 minutes before the game. I mean, as long as Lamar Jackson doesn't get his lung punctured by a team doctor, I assume that won't happen. But very interesting. I was also looking at player props in this game, though, Brett, and right now they're sitting pretty accurate in terms of uh, where they have each of these players sitting at. I wouldn't be surprised. I like the Lamar Jackson over 1.5 touchdown passes potentially. That's sitting at minus 160. If the line moves a little closer to 100, I might take that. And then the other one is Mark Ingram's rushing yards of 49.5. I have a feeling that Kansas City's defense is going to try to make a purpose to contain Lamar Jackson. So he's going to have to either pass it or he's going to have to do options with Mark Ingram, and it'll give opportunities to the backfield.
Yeah, I think the player prop market is very interesting. I'm not sure where I lean on the Mark Ingram one, but I think over 1.5 passing TDs for Lamar Jackson is definitely realistic for tomorrow night, where I would say you and I would both expect these quarterbacks to be able to put up at least a few points. Not maybe not 100, but 20 or
That's
so.
that same prop for Patrick Mahomes is also over 1.5 passing touchdowns, but it's minus 200. Now, I don't see that moving much at all, so I'm going to stay away from that one. But I think that's pretty solid money in terms of a lock. I think he's pretty safe to throw 2 touchdowns or more.
Yeah, I would agree.
Let's get into our locks, though, Brett. I think you have the honors.
Ooh, I had the last win. Okay, let's bring back the lock, Higgins. The Levy lock this week: Kansas City plus 3.5 on Monday Night Football. Like I said, we just discussed it. They're the two best teams in the AFC. I think Kansas City keeps this one within a field goal.
And I am going with that over 5.5 goals in the Tampa Bay Lightning versus Dallas Stars game that I told you about earlier. And it's strictly because of the recent history that I told you about. Last game, it wouldn't have hit. 5 goals were scored. The game before that, 9. Game before that, 7. So I like those odds in terms of recent game success of 2 out of 3 for passing it. However, overall in the series, 3 of these games have ended with 5 goals scored. So technically, it's 2 and 3 for hitting this over in terms of the entire series.
Yeah, you're just taking it because you hate me, but that's okay. I still love you, Higgins.
I don't hate you, I hate unders. There's a difference. Well, like I said, we'll probably have some picks out on Monday for the MLB games that'll be going on Tuesday and Wednesday. Plus, we'll probably have some picks out for the NBA, and if the NHL game gets extended to a Game 7, like I'm hoping so, we'll have some more picks out for that. Make sure to get those picks on our social media, at NBBPod on Twitter, at NextBestBet on Instagram, and the Next Best Bet Facebook page. Brett, before we get out of here, you got any last comments, words, or thoughts?
No, I'm excited for this week of sports. Baseball playoffs, NBA finals. Hopefully we get a Stanley Cup Game 7, Higgins. So lots of fun stuff to look forward to this week.
Yes, try to manage your bankroll because there are a lot of big games, lots of fun games, games that a lot of eyes are going to be on. And so try to make sure that you can be on as many of those as you want to by managing that bankroll properly. This has been episode 79 of The Next Best Bet. It's Sunday night, well, Monday morning by the time you're listening to this, but we got a full week of great sports ahead, and we will be back to talk to you again on Thursday.